Welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. I am your host, Chad Williams. This evening, I'm joined by my special guest, Mat Kendrick, who is a co-host of the Claret and Blue podcast. Also, he works for Birmingham Live. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, thanks, Chad. Thanks for inviting me along. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. I was on the radio last week.
Were you on WM?
Yeah, BBC WM, yeah.
How did it go?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. Really interesting as well. A lot of work goes into it, you don't realise.
Who were you on with Daz?
Yeah, Daz Hale, yeah.
Oh, he's a good guy. Actually, did he make you feel kind of comfortable? Was he good with you?
Yeah, it made me feel really welcome.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, before we get more into the interview, Matt, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's Chad Williams. I'm 27 years old. I have a genetic muscle wasting condition called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. 1 in 3,000 boys worldwide are born with the condition. Also, it affects all of the muscles and has left me paralysed. Very sadly, I've lost close friends and people whom I knew with the disease. I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old. I stopped walking when I was 9 years old. It's a terrible disease. So if you come back, could you spread some awareness for me?
Yeah, definitely. If you give me once we've recorded this, if you drop me any kind of links to more information about the condition and anything that people can do to support it, let me know, and I'll definitely spread the word. And I think it's brilliant that you've got this platform yourself to promote the cause as well, really.
Thank you. But also, despite the daily challenges I go through, I live life to the full as much as I can. I volunteer twice a week in my local community. I have a very busy social life. Avid Aston Villa supporter for 22 years and season ticket holder in the Trinity Road stand. Also, another reason why I want to do this podcast is to inspire other people that no matter who you are, you can achieve anything. So where did the idea of the Claret and Blue podcast come from?
I think we launched one about 5 years ago, and it got a really dodgy title, and we didn't record it very well at all. It was very basic, and it was called Aliv Notza, which is Aston Villa backwards. And then we brought Dan Rollinson in. He's our multimedia producer, and he co-hosts the podcast. And he'd kind of made a little bit of a name for himself in fan media through the Villa View.
I like Dan Rollinson.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's we get on quite. We're colleagues now, but we're friends as well. And I think what we wanted to do was, I think it really came into its own, Chad, during lockdown. To be honest, because people couldn't necessarily get out and see the friends, and our podcast, we just try to make it light-hearted and have fun. Basically, if you want real detailed insight, you're probably going to go somewhere else. If you want Villa fans who love the club just kind of messing about and having a laugh and enjoying Aston Villa, that's what we try to do. So in lockdown, it kind of came into its own a little bit because we were just challenged to be a little bit more creative with it because, for a while there weren't any matches at all. and we were able to get people. We got some of my heroes on there. We got Martin Larson on there. I think we got like people like Barry Bannon and Mark Albright, and it was just I don't know. I think it was just trying to tell interesting stories. We all love this football club, so we just want to try and celebrate it and share interesting things about it.
Well, I use it as a bit of escapism, I do as well. It gives me like a bit of a distraction, football.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, Chad, you know more than anybody with the challenges that you're facing every single day. That life is a lot of serious things going on in life, but Villa and football should be our chance to just, like you say, put all that to one side and just get lost in 90 minutes of chanting or backing the team. And the fact that we're going through as good a time as I can remember, and most Villa fans can remember, certainly since the Martin O'Neill days, it is escapism. And sometimes I have to pinch myself because I'm so used. I mean, I'm cynical. I'm quite a bit older than you, and I'm quite cynical now where Villa are concerned. So I always think, when's it going to end? When's it going to end? So I'm always expect the worst. But it's been brilliant, and the fact that I'm a season ticket holder in the Trinity as well.
Oh yeah,
and we're actually turning up to games now, expecting to win.
Well, that's what's nice. Like you was going to Villa Park now, you turn up expecting to win, like you said. Good times are back.
Well, I hope so.
Well, did you expect the Claret and Blue podcast to become a big success?
I hoped it would. I mean, I'm a newspaper journalist by trade. That's what I got into the industry for. But things evolve, don't they? People consume the media in different ways. Not as many people buy newspapers as they used to. So you've got to try and get in touch with your audience and get in touch with football fans in new ways. So I hoped it would be. I think it's just it's nice. We're doing a live event at the start of June, and we did one I think in November.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
And it's nice. It's good, and it's nice when you actually these people who kind of leave you nice messages in the comments. It's nice to see that they actually really exist. Because I don't know what you're like, but sometimes when we do a lot of our podcast live after matches, I forget that I'm speaking to however many people, a few hundred people or whatever it is. I think I'm just speaking to Dan. Which I'd probably try and make a bit more sense if I realised I was speaking to more people. But it's not. I think there's lots of kind of in the Villa fan media and podcasts. It's quite a nice little community. I think people look out for each other, and we're all doing the same thing, celebrating Aston Villa, but we're all doing it in a slightly different way.
I'll try and watch as many Aston Villa podcasts as I can. I do watch quite a few.
Loads of good ones as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I watch the Claret and Blue podcast regularly. Also, you got the Villa View, and the Liverpool McGrath. I watch a few of them.
It's good. It's funny. I mean, I don't know what your kind of viewing habits are like, Chad, but you're probably not old. Are you old enough to remember the Sports Argus pink newspaper that used to come out on a Saturday?
Well, I was born 1996, so I don't know if I remember.
So your parents or your kind of older relatives
would, yeah.
But basically, we used to sell more copies of the Argus when Villa had won because you'd want to read about it. And I just wonder, I mean, I probably should check out kind of analytics and stuff, but I wonder whether the podcasts are like that as well. Some people just consume them regardless, but if we'd had a heavy defeat, I'm not sure I'd want to be listening to loads of people rattling on about it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, how long have you worked for Birmingham Live for?
I think I started in 2007. Started with the Sunday Mercury because I've been a journalist since about 1999.
Wow, that's amazing.
What year were you born?
1996.
Did you say you were born?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey! So yeah, I've been a journalist since you were 3, and I always wanted to get paid for writing about the Villa. I realised quite early on that I was never good enough to play for the Villa.
I do enjoy your articles.
The next best thing for me was getting paid.
I've read a few of your articles.
Yeah, I don't do it so much anymore. I'm in like a management position now where I kind of just provide support to a lot of our teams, and it's not just like Birmingham now. I work for a company called Reach PLC, and we look after Daily Mirror, the Daily Star, the Daily Express, and then Birmingham Mail and Birmingham Live, and then loads of regional titles all across the country. So I've got a slightly different job now, whereby going in a lot of meetings. Got my head buried in spreadsheets
Yeah.
rather than articles. So that's why I like doing Claret and Blue, because it keeps. I feel like I'm keeping my hand in, and I'm still doing a little bit of journalism,
I
albeit
bet
in a
it
different
feels
way.
a bit like a hobby as well, doing the podcast.
Yeah, it is. Thing is, Chad, like when I was the Villa reporter, I was the Villa report for about 6 or 7 years, during the bleak years, kind of. And you'd come home, and even if I'm not knocking it, I enjoyed doing it, but you'd come back and then you'd have to write match reports, analysis, player ratings. You'd have to do quotes pieces. You'd have to do all these written follow ups. You'd have your head lost in your laptop for hours on end. You'd lose half your Sunday doing this. What I love now about Claret and Blue and podcast is the immediacy. I can come back from the game, stick my laptop on, chat for half an hour, and it's job done. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can get the rest of my night back.
Well, do you enjoy your job?
Yeah, I do. It's an ever changing industry. When I got into it all those years ago, newspapers were still quite strong.
Oh yeah.
And we still get a lot of revenue from our newspapers, but people certainly of your age, Chad, and
Yeah.
younger now, don't consume newspapers. They
Well,
consume everything online.
technology's changed over the years.
Yeah, well,
With
that's it.
technology.
And I don't think you can. I don't think you can fight it either. There's a generation, and this makes me sound like a really old man now, but there's a generation who are not used to paying for films, for music, for media. So you're not going to be able, you're not going to suddenly start. I know some sites have kind of paywalls and try and get people to pay for content, but there's a generation who are used to not having to pay for it.
Of
So
course.
you've got to come along, and you've got to experience new platforms. Like we're on with our podcast. I think we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we put bits on Facebook. I think Dan's starting a TikTok account. So you've just got to
Different
try and be
platforms.
wherever your audience are, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. You got to reach your target audience.
Yeah.
Did you always want to get into sports journalism?
Yeah, I think so. Like my son's 15 now, and he hasn't got a clue what he wants to do. But by the time I was that age, it was just that. Yeah, I've probably told this story before, but I used to my mum and dad are quite religious, and we used to go to church every Sunday morning. And I
Yeah.
used to be a choir boy, believe it or not. Back in the day, I
Oh
used to
well.
be a choir boy.
Well, I never thought
And
you would have been a choir boy.
I know it's I don't look the type, do I? But what happened was I'd kind of daydream what the vicar would be giving his sermon, and I'd daydream about scoring a goal in the top corner or whatever. And after the service, my dad would give me a couple of quid, and he'd send me up the newsagents, and I'd get I don't know, a copy of the Sunday Mirror or Sunday Mercury or whatever. And when I realised that people actually got paid to write about football matches, that just seemed too good to be true for me. So I set off on that path quite early, and I've been like a news reporter covering court cases and council meetings and cats stuck up trees and all that kind of thing.
I bet your job must be very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think the thing that I'm missing a little bit at the moment is I work from home now, and initially it was quite a novelty, and I like the convenience of it, and I like the fact that I don't have to have a commute anymore and that kind of thing. But I feel like the walls are closing in a little bit now, and I think people get into journalism because they want to speak to people, they want to be more social. So I'm going to kind of set myself a challenge, even if it's just kind of once a week or once a fortnight, getting out and going in. We've got various offices across the country, so just getting out there and seeing a few more people, really.
Well, I'll move on to the next question now. What advice would you give to other podcasters who are just starting?
I think I'm not saying this is necessarily the right advice, but this is what I do. Just don't take yourself too seriously. It's fun.
That's
Especially
good
if you're
advice,
doing a podcast. If you're doing a podcast, Chad, you're probably doing it about something that you're interested in and a topic that you like, a hobby or a pastime. Bring that enthusiasm to it. Bring that enjoyment to it. I think sometimes I know it's not a podcast as such, but I always dig out. When Danny Murphy's on as a pundit on Match of
Oh
the Day,
yeah.
and he's got a face like a slap backside, thinking this is fun. This is football. It's supposed to be an entertainment industry. It's supposed to be escapism. So I just think try and bring a little bit of fun to it, basically, and try and in a congested market try and bring something a little bit different, I suppose, as well.
Because in the podcast, you got to be passionate about something, like to talk about it as well.
Well, yeah, that's it, and especially football and Aston Villa, we've all got opinions about it. I think sometimes you probably need a thick skin as well. If if you're podcast on a platform that allows people to make comments, and you'll get. I mean, what I find is you develop a little posse who have got your back, and they'll support you, and then you'll get some who just don't like you and don't rate you or whatever. But I think as long as I always think, as long as you're enjoying it yourself and you're enthusiastic about it, it doesn't really matter, because the people have a choice whether to follow it and whether to listen to it or whether not to. So yeah, just be natural and just have a smile on your face, basically.
Yeah, that's good. And what's it like interviewing players and managers?
It's a lot better now, because a lot of the players and managers I interview are ones that have left the club, and they've got a little bit of distance between when they're at the club. And I think it's probably like any industry, but football is such a high pressure industry. You know what I mean? There's a lot of scrutiny on it.
Yeah.
That when you're interviewing people when they're currently employed in a job in football, that can be a bit tense. And sometimes you're speaking to them directly after a match, and passions are running high. What I like about doing the kind of former players and that kind of thing is they don't have that pressure anymore. The stories that they couldn't possibly have told you 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, they're more open about now. They're able to share them. And what I find about it is, as Villa fans, we all hark back to 1982 for obvious reasons. But nowadays, nostalgia doesn't have to be 40 years ago. Nostalgia can be the Martin O'Neill era. It can be 10 years ago. So I like speaking to people who are still relevant. I don't mean that the people who older than that aren't still relevant, but these people, I don't know. I should imagine our target audience is somewhere between 20 and 50 on our podcast. But if you're 20 years old, 25 years old, John Carew is nostalgia now.
Oh, even he, John Carew, yeah.
So I like being able to kind of tell those stories from that era.
I bet you have to do your research before as well.
Yeah, it's I do think that, I mean, we've done during lockdown we had to do lots of interviews via Zoom calls and video calls. We've tried to go out and do some face to face. We were lucky enough to get Martin O'Neill before Christmas. We've done Alan Hutton a month or so ago.
Well, the Alan Hutton interview, I really enjoyed the interview you and Ashley Priest did. It's the most honest interview I've watched.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Chad, you're only really as good as your subject. And Ash, me and Ash are pretty laid back, and we try and, I certainly do when I interview people. I try and not be overly matey, but just try and be a little bit laid back and try and be friendly, and then hopefully they'll bite on something, that. And what I try and do as well, and this is unlike me in my daily life. Anybody who knows me knows that I barely shut up, to be honest. When I'm on work meetings, I'm always talking. When I'm interviewing, I try to ask a question and then allow the person to speak. And you know what I mean? I think that's. Listen, when me and Dan are doing a post-match one, obviously the platform, the floor is for both of us to talk or whatever. But when you're interviewing Alan Hutton or Martin O'Neill or I don't know, Martin Larson or Gareth Barry or whoever else has been on there, John Gregory, so on.
Yes.
People aren't really on there to listen to my voice on that one. They're there to listen to the former manager or the former player. So it's trying to remember to give people that space, I think.
Well, actually, over the years, I've met a lot of players and managers.
Who's been the?
I'm
Sorry,
probably.
Chad. I was just talking about.
No, you carry on.
No, I was just sorry, I lost you then. I was just going to say who's been your favourite one? Either that you've met them because they're a big hero of yours, or your favourite because when you met them, they were just so genuine and warm towards you.
Well, I would probably say Stilian Petrov and Mark Albrighton.
Yeah,
They were my two favourites. They were all
yeah,
genuine as well.
yeah, they're lovely. I mean, I'm not saying the other people aren't, but they're lovely people as well. And we've been lucky enough to get both of those on, and gave us an hour and a half of their time. Just I think the sweet spot for me, if you can find a footballer or a football hero that can cope with the fame and the money and all the success, but still manages to stay grounded and normal. And I think Mark and Stillian fit into that category. And it just makes you think, there's that phrase in the never meet your heroes. But when you meet your hero and they're actually really, really decent human beings, that just lifts them to another level for me.
Well, Mark Albrighton is a Tamworth lad. From Tamworth.
Yeah, I bet he's not far from you.
Also, I've met Gareth Barry.
Yeah.
James Milner. I've met Andy Vyman, Gabby Abondahor. I've met absolute loads. I went to the training ground there before.
There's a decent team there that you've just named.
And also, I used to go to Acorns Children's Hospice when I was younger. They did a lot for me, they did.
Which one did you go to, Chad?
I went to the one in Warsaw.
Oh, right, brilliant. So Villa would have popped along there quite often as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's why we always got the opportunity to meet the players.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brad Frieden as well.
Oh, yeah, forgot about him.
Yeah,
What's he doing now? Is he managing somewhere?
I think so, yeah. Well, how long have you been at Aston Villa supporter for?
Probably since I was about 5 or 6 years old. It's a strange story because my dad's. I have to whisper this gently. My dad's a Wolves fan.
It's a shame. My granddad supports Wolves.
But when I was growing up in the kind of mid '80s, so I was born in '78. When I was growing up in the mid '80s, he took me to. He tried to take Molyneux was a real state then. It was a real mess.
Or was it?
The stadium was a mess, and it was ramshackle. He took me there once, and I just wasn't having it. And then he used to be a bus driver, my dad, and he used to work in West Brom. So he used to get free tickets to the Albion as well. But because he was Wolves, he didn't like to go in there. And then he took me once to Villa Park, and it wasn't even a proper game. It was like a charity game, versus BRMB, the old radio station, versus Villa Old Stars. But he took me on a midweek game, and it must have been empty Villa Park, but it was the old, the cliche when it's the floodlights on that big green rectangle. And after that, I just kept saying, Dad, you've got to bring me back here. You've got to keep bringing me back. So even though my dad's a Wolves fan, he's got a season ticket to the Villa now. We've managed to convert him. So yeah, so probably since I was about 6 or 7. Probably started going regularly since I was about 11 or 12, and then was able to go with a mate, in my teenage years, and had a bit of a break from watching Villa because I wanted to be a sports journalist. So I covered Shrewsbury Town for a few years for the Shropshire Star, and I covered Kidderminster Harriers for the local Kidderminster Shuttle paper over there. So I probably had about 5 years in the early noughties not watching Villa. Then I came back and was able to write about Villa for the Mail and for the Mercury and Birmingham Live.
Well, I went to the Wolves game, I did. We were grinding at Molyneux, Villa versus Wolves.
Oh, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, my granddad was giving me loads of stick. Yeah, and he even had to hide his wool scarf.
Well, my dad still retains that little bit of Wolves. So when Wolves play Villa, we have to say, "Listen, Dad, just sit there and be quiet, regardless of what happens. Just sit there and mind your own business."
I've lost the battle to convert him, though.
I should probably. How long's your granddad supported Villa? About 50 years.
Wolves.
Wolves. I mean, sorry, about 50 years.
Yeah, since he started going in the 60s.
Yeah,
quite a long time.
I don't think you're going to win him over now.
No, definitely not. Do you attend the games regularly at Villa?
Yeah, I go to all the home games. Like I say, we've got a season ticket for the home games. We don't go away very often. I think I managed to get to one away game last season, and Man City on the last game of the season. And I managed to get tickets to the League Cup game at Man United that I took my son to earlier this season. So it's definitely home every other week. We're at the home games, but the away games just as and when, really.
Well, I'll go on to the next question. Who is your most favourite Aston Villa player of all time, and why?
It's a really difficult question, that one. I mean, the classic answer is Paul McGrath, and I was lucky enough to see McGrath play, and he's just a maestro, just a real master of it. When you factor
He
in
was
all
God,
the,
he
all
was
his,
God to the Villa fans.
yeah, and he was, it's very rare that a centre half has that kind of, you normally make your big connection with a centre forward, don't you, or a creative
Yeah.
forward player. But so McGrath would be the classic one, and he'd be definitely up there. But I've got a real fondness for David Platt, and I think I'm not in the minority a little bit, but there's a lot of Villa fans who are upset when David Platt left. He never really talks about his time at Villa. You know what I mean? He's almost airbrushed out Villa. But I'm more of the opinion I would rather appreciate what he was like when we got him, rather than worrying about what he's been since he left, basically. So it's funny because David Platt, I did get to interview him over the phone about, I don't know, 10, 15 years
What
ago.
was he like?
And he was great. He was great. Gave me what I needed, and then stayed on the phone for another 5 minutes while I was a proper fanboy saying how I loved him and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to get him on our podcast, Chad, but I'm always scared because I don't want now. I've spoke to him once
Yeah.
and he was great. I don't want to ruin that now. Do you know? I don't want him to turn out to be a right git. So I will try. I've got a number for him. I will try him eventually, but I don't want to spoil my love of him, basically.
Well, my favourite players probably are Pablo Angel, probably, or Gareth Barry.
Yeah, Gareth's a top, a really, really good bloke, and Angel as well, considering he came and had a difficult start and managed to find form and then win over the Villa fans and become a real hero. I mean, when did you start watching Villa? When you were kind of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? What kind of age?
It would have been the early thousands, so maybe 2002.
So what kind of Graham Taylor's second era, and then into the David O'Leary era?
Yeah, about that era, yeah.
So that was a tough few years, to be honest, before O'Neill came. O'Leary had one good season, didn't he? But
when my dad,
so your first heroes would have been.
He actually bought me. My dad's friend. He bought my first Villa kit, and he was a blue nose. My dad's friend.
Oh.
And he went all the way in the Villa store, and he bought it, man.
Oh, and he had to do remember what kit it was?
It was the Rover one, I think. Not the Rover one.
Oh, right, yeah. You know what I associate that one with? I associate with Gavin McCann, I do.
Oh, yeah, I remember him, yeah, Gavin McCann.
Yeah, it was like the Gavin McCann era and maybe a bit of Stephen Moore and that kind of thing, wasn't it, back then?
What is your best moment you have witnessed as a Villa supporter?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I suppose it's actually seeing Villa win a couple of things. You know, we won the League Cup in 1994, and I was there with my dad. And then we won the League Cup again in 1996, and I actually thought this is good. Villa win trophies every 2 years. Then 1996, and now what are we? 2023, waiting for the next one.
Well, the only one that I saw was a playoff trophy. The playoffs,
yeah,
really.
But it's still, you know, that would be one of the moments as well, because that was the first and only thing I've seen us win with my son. So that was the time, you know, me and my son went down to Wembley, and it's been. Listen, I know we get carried away sometimes, but it's been far too long, hasn't it, for this club not to win any proper silverware.
Well, we're a massive club. We deserve success.
Well, yeah, and I hope with the bloke that we've got now, I think we've got as good a chance of getting it, because he just seems to be a very shrewd operator, doesn't he?
Well, Unai Emery, he's got a great CV as well. Won Europa League a few times as well.
Yeah, I think I've said this a few times, Chad. I think if we've still got Emery in charge in 3 or 4 years' time, we'll be in much better shape, and I think the whole club will be in much better shape. Not just the first team. I think there'll actually be a proper structure in place, because since we've got into the Premier League, it has been a little bit of trial and error, and we've chopped and changed and moved things around. I think for Emery to really have success, we just need to hold our nerve and be patient as a fan base, and the board of directors need to be patient. And then, there'll be things like, we lost to Stevenage in the FA Cup. There'll be setbacks along the way, but I think we'll be better for it if we can just keep this consistency with somebody who, like you say, has got a proven track record.
Well, Unai Emery's, he's a genius. What he's achieved already as well.
I can't believe it, can you? With the same set of players.
Oh, it's an incredible turnaround.
Because you normally get a new manager bounce, don't you, in a honeymoon period? But to actually get the results and the constant run of form, and to evolve a playing philosophy, without, he's only been here. When did he come? November time? Been here 6 months?
6 months. And also,
I think Villa have evolved more in 6 months than
he's given good instructions out as well. The players all seem to know what they're doing.
I think so, and I think the thing for me as well is, I think he's educating the fan base as well, because at first I think we were all a bit nervy when they were playing this real slow build up on the edge of their own box, and then when we've seen that actually if we stay with it, it's going to be more success. There's going to be little moments when we lose possession and lose a goal, but on the whole, playing that way has enabled us to open up spaces and to play through teams and to score goals. With the exception of the Wolves game and the United game, I think the other week, I think we've scored in every single game, haven't we?
Yes, correct.
It's not a negative system. It still gets goals.
Well, I still believe that European football could be possible.
I think so. We're still waiting for... Well, we've got to get a result at Liverpool on Saturday. We've got to beat Brighton.
I think maybe draw against Liverpool. If we get a draw against Liverpool and win against Brighton, that could be enough.
I think it's doable, and but what I would say, Chad, is even if we just fall short, I don't think we can see that as a disappointment, considering the situation he inherited, considering what he's done since then. And I think, regardless of how we finish this season and where we finish this season, we're actually competing again now. We're competing in the top half of the Premier League. We haven't done that really. I know we kind of finished 9th under Houllier. We haven't really looked as if we can properly compete in the top half of the Premier League since Martin O'Neill. And that's 15 years ago now?
I think it's about 12 years.
Yeah.
2011.
Wasn't it, I think, yeah. So it's exciting times, hopefully.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's really good time being a Villa fan. But we've got a good season, though. No matter what happens, it's been a great season.
I think so, and I think we've got some real heroes back as well. I think Watkins looks like he could, not this season, obviously now, but it looks like he can be a 20 goal a season striker.
And John McGinn.
Louise, I think John McGinn has just had he's had a real transformation, hasn't he? Had a new lease of life, so he's been good. Mings was written off by many, but he's the one who's him and Conter are able to adapt this style and playing triangles with Emi Martinez. There's just Ashley Young. I mean, how's Ashley Young still? Ashley Young's older than Gabby Bonlahor.
Oh, he's still playing
every week.
But what I like about him is his leadership, his experience as well.
Yeah, he's streetwise as well, isn't he? I think it was, I can't remember what's that young Leeds winger? He said the other day, didn't he, that Ashley Young's the worst player he's played against because he was constantly in his ear, annoying him and trying to put him off. And that comes with a little bit of wisdom and a bit of, like I say, a bit of experience and a bit of know-how. So I think he's been crucial. Not only the way he's performed, but the way he kind of is around that place. as well, and able to kind of quite an infectious character. So I think he's been a really important part of that dressing room.
What he does, he galvanises the dressing room as well.
Yeah, because it's still. I suppose it's still a relative. I wouldn't. What do you think Villa's average age is in the first team now? Probably about 26.
Yeah, about mid-20s to late 20s, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's still in Premier League terms, it probably still is a relatively inexperienced dressing room, to be honest. So to have somebody like that who's played at the highest level, but doesn't really have delusions of grandeur, still prepared to be one of the lads and one of the hardest workers. I don't know how long he'll go on. I don't think he's 38 now, isn't he? I think so. I don't know how long he can sustain that.
Well, I'd give him 1 more year deal. I would 1 more contract, maybe just for a year.
Well, yeah, I don't listen. I'm not sure if he's still here. I'm not sure he'll get the same amount of minutes as this season. I think that's probably surprised him and surprised Emery that he's played so much. But you're right. You'd have him around the place. You'd have him as an option from the bench, and you'd have him as that kind of dressing room character and personality as well.
Also, Matt, if you could you spread the word about my podcast as well?
Yeah, definitely. If you can share me all the links and all the and I'll put it out across my Twitter and across my Facebook, and perhaps we can catch up another time, Chad, and I can do a story for Birmingham Man and Birmingham Live, just telling the story of your podcast as well, if we can.
Oh, that'd be really great. That would really mean a lot if you could do that.
No, definitely, I'd love to do it.
God, it is. I'll try and get more subscribers as well, and get the word out about the condition.
We'll definitely give it a good plug for you.
Thank you. What is your most favourite interview you have done?
Oh, that's a good one. Just trying to think. I'll tell you, this is probably because it's in recent memory, but I did enjoy doing the O'Neill one recently because me and O'Neill, when I was the Villa reporter, we fell out towards the end of O'Neill's time because I don't know what it is. Sometimes there's friction between the local reporter and the manager and stuff like that. So when I got the opportunity to interview him, I thought it was a wind-up. I thought somebody was saying just kind of playing a prank. But because we've got that little bit of history and because O'Neill hadn't really spoken in the last 10 years about how he felt about leaving Villa and that kind of thing, I felt it was good because I kind of, I'm not saying any more special than anybody else, but I kind of lived through that era as a local reporter, so I kind of knew or got a feeling of what the pressures were that he was under. So it's almost nice to get that exclusive, really, getting him. He's still, O'Neill's a strange character, but I found in that interview, it was the first time he'd actually admitted that nobody benefited from the way he left. He didn't go on to better things. Villa, we were left with 10 years in a lull to put it back right again. So it was just nice for him to reflect on it and to say, listen, I would have done things differently. And as a journalist, you always like to get the story. So it was good for me to get that story.
Well, I always blame Randy Lerner for that. They had a toxic relationship, him and Martin O'Neill.
Yeah, I think it was a difficult one, because I think Lerner came in with the best intentions. I think it was the plan, probably the same plan that the new board have got now to try and get European football, Champions League football. But I think Villa came so close, didn't they? Finished 6th 3 times in a row.
You missed out on top 4.
And then
we sort of just keep missing the top 4, yeah.
Well, that was it. And Tottenham and then Man City started to get that massive investment, and then they just kind of left us behind a little bit. But I think Randy Lerner thought that he was supplying a Champions League budget in terms of the money he was giving O'Neill for his squad, but needed to see a Champions League return out of it eventually to make it worth his while. And I think the situation could have been handled better. I think O'Neill and Lerner probably could have got around a table and had a more civil conversation about it. But again, it's this high scrutiny, high pressure. O'Neill was a man in a hurry. He wanted to go and manage Manchester United or Liverpool, and he thought getting Villa in the top 4 was his best chance. So when somebody took that away from him, he forgot his kind of charm and his niceties, and it just Just became a clash.
Because we was always like near Tottenham. Us and Spurs were always near each other.
Yeah, and it was just that. It was like a sliding doors moment, wasn't it? Just Villa turned the tap off in terms of money, and then it was always going to be hard.
I'll go on to the next question now. Have you been on TV and the radio before?
I have not for a long. I used to do quite a lot of talk sport, bits and pieces when I was the Villa correspondent a long time ago.
Well, that sounds good.
I don't know. Have I been on TV? Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's okay. Have I been on TV? I think I was on Match of the Day 2. I think they interviewed me outside Villa Park. That was when O'Neill left. I think I did. What did I do? I think I did. Do you know Rob Bishop?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be involved with kind of editing the programme and stuff. Me and Rob Bishop, and I think it was Ken McNaught and Jack Woodward did. I think we did our best. It came out on DVD. We did our best 10 Villa Premier League, but best players of the Premier League era. So I don't mind it. You know, I'm a writer by trade. You know, that's what I got into, the written word. But I don't mind it. I quite like the sound of my own voice, even if other people don't get bored of it.
Well, I'm interviewing Jack Woodward soon.
Oh, Jack's good. Yeah, we've because I used to, when I was the Villa reporter, we used to go on some of the pre-season tours and a couple of the kind of European trips. So we'd always hang around with Jack, and he's a good guy.
I remember him always singing before. We went to Acorns
Yeah,
with
I
the
think he's
players.
in a choir, isn't he? Did he come and sing at Acorns one year?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember all the players used to take the mickey out of him when he'd break into this kind of this baritone voice.
You used to see a lot of Frank Sinatra and all them sort of songs.
Yeah. No, it's good when you speak. I've not spoken to Jack for a while, but when you speak to him, pass on my best to him as well.
Yes, I will. So, do you enjoy writing articles?
Yeah, I do. I don't write so much now, but when I do, I really enjoy doing it. I like what we call I suppose it's a long read, like it's a backgrounder. There's a guy called Stephen Cook who used to play for Villa, and he was kind of hailed as the next best thing. Probably at the start when you started watching Villa in the early noughties, and it didn't quite go well for him. You know, he kind of got injuries, and then his career kind of tailed off a little bit. But we got him on the podcast probably a couple of years ago now, and I like turning that into a really kind of detailed read about, you know, what went wrong and how he feels about it now, and just providing a little bit of colour, because I think sometimes football can be quite sanitised sometimes, and we expect people to behave like robots, and I like telling the human stories behind it and the quirky things that you might not know, and like I say, little bits of colour. So when I do write, that's the kind of thing I like to write.
What do you do in your spare time?
Oh, what do I do in my spare time? I've become a bit of a football dad, really, because I've got 2 kids. My boys, my lad's 15 and my daughter's 12.
Oh,
and
that's
they're
nice.
both football obsessed. So I'm watching them. So my daughter plays Saturday mornings, and I'm watching her and driving her around. And then my son plays Sunday afternoons, and then I've got Villa, you know, every other weekend. And then my job's around football. So my wife doesn't really like football at all. So she's just a bit of a kind of football widow. She just kind of lets us all get on with it. But so yeah, watching my kids play football is one of my biggest pastimes. And not reading fiction, really, just reading kind of
That's good.
fairly trashy kind of crime novels and stuff like that.
Well, I'll go on to the next question now. What do you think of the season ticket price increase?
Oh, it's a difficult one because mine's gone up, I think, by 15%, and my son's has gone up by about 35-40%. Now, it's hard, isn't it? Because I think if you think of the Premier League and the product that it is and the hype that surrounds it, I'm probably paying about £40 a ticket now, £40 a match for my ticket, and my son's probably close to £20 a match. When you say it like that, I don't think it sounds like too bad value. I think it's just because we were almost spoilt in the last couple of years. We didn't have a price rise for ages. Then we've had one last summer and another one this summer, and it's come at a time when mortgages are going up,
and you got the cost of living. It's hard for families.
Yeah, it's difficult. So, fortunately this year, I'm able to renew my ticket and my son's ticket, so we can go again. But there's going to be some families who are going to have to make that choice and say, well, we can't do it anymore. And, and it probably does sound a little bit, I don't know, I'm a traditionalist and I do think that football should still be available for all.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get people priced out of it. And I think that's a shame, really.
Good is they take it for granted because they know as supporters will pay for it. They sort of take it for granted.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got a 33,000 waiting list, you know that if you don't pay it, you'll lose it, and it might be another 10 years or more before you can get back in there again as a season to get older. So they've got us, really, haven't they? And it's unlike any other business because if you were, if your local car dealer was inflating his prices massively, you go down the road and go somewhere else, wouldn't you? If Aston Villa are doing it, you're not gonna suddenly abandon your team, are you?
Well, I always sit. Where the tunnel is. I sit left of the tunnel, sort of above the tunnel.
Yeah.
We've got quite good seats. The mine's gone up by 15%.
Yeah. It's expensive. I mean, I suppose that Villa will say though that it's a kind of entertainment industry, isn't it? And I think they've said, haven't they, that we were priced quite competitively compared to a lot of our rivals. And if we want to compete at the top end of the table, we're going to have top end prices. I think as Villa fans, we always want our club to be the exception, don't we? And we think, we've got these owners. Why can't they? For the amount that the season ticket rises are going to deliver, I think it might be about £3 million, which they could probably get that by getting a sponsor to get a named sponsor of the training ground or whatever. But I think they will be looking at all these other revenue streams as well. I think they'll be working the sponsorship thing quite hard. They'll be working the hospitality and the commercials, all the other associated commercial things hard. So if you're the CEO or you're the chief finance officer at Aston Villa, you've got to try and maximise as much income as you can, haven't you?
Well, I'll go on to the last question now. If you could describe in one word, what's it like to support Aston Villa? What would it be? In one word.
I suppose most fans would say this about most clubs, but probably roller coaster, to be honest.
Yeah, I would go exactly with that.
It's certainly in the last 10 years. And, well, I think roller coaster is good because there's highs and there's lows. But even in the dips, there's still bits of excitement and there's bits of, you still don't want to get off there. You're still there.
Yeah.
You're still on it. So I think it would be that. What about you?
Yeah, I was actually going to go with the same. But also, another one to go with is probably life. Life would be another one.
Is what, sorry?
Life. Does life?
Life.
That would be what I'd go for as well.
Yeah, it is because we invest so much. I don't mean financially, just emotionally, Just that 90 minutes every other week. And I like it now. Who do you go with, Chad? Do you go with your family member? Or
I usually go with my granddad, but my dad drops me off.
Yeah.
So my granddad, even though he's a Wolves fan, he goes to the games with me at the Villa.
Yeah. So I like, obviously you want your team to win and play well and score goals, but I go with my dad, my son, my nephew, and my son's friend. And it's just like a little, we don't make it. We park, we get to the game, we drive back home. I'm not somebody who spends like the day in the pub or whatever at Villa, but I like the little community aspect about it. I like that regardless of what's going on in my life, every couple of weeks, I know that I'm going to be sat in the car with my dad for half an hour on the way there and half an hour on the way back, and it kind of glues people together. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I like that side of it as well.
Well, before I bring the episode to the close, Matt, what is your score predictions for Saturday?
Oh, they've just found some form, haven't they? I think Liverpool are a bit of a machine at the moment because they're trying to kind of reel in Man United, aren't they? In that top four. I'll go for a 1-1 draw because I think we're capable of going anywhere
Yes.
and playing anybody at the moment and being competitive. So I go for a 1-1 draw. It wouldn't, I'm probably getting carried away now. It wouldn't surprise me if we weren't able to sneak a win there, but I don't think we will.
Well, Anfield's a tough place to go to.
Yeah, and especially now they're fighting for a cause as well. I think it's Firmino's farewell as well, isn't it? I think so. It's going to be
Yes, it is.
It's going to be quite emotional there. Yeah, but if anybody can do it, Unai Emery can do it.
Well, I'm going to go for 2-2. 2-2 draw.
Who's going to score?
Or I'll say Watkins, and I think Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, been good, hasn't he, lately, Douglas Luiz?
Thank you everyone for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Also, please remember to subscribe to my channel. Also, thank you, Matt, for your time.
No, thanks for having me on, Chad. I've really enjoyed it.
The only last thing I'm going to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.